2, 1. Three, two, one. Uh oh, no, 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 no! Oh! Well, no doubt, if you were watching this, then you more than likely watched my launch days video in which this rocket did not fare so well. Had a great ascent, climbed up nicely, it arced over, and on the way down, it ejected, but the parachute got jammed at the top of the rocket tube and did not come out. Therefore, it just nosedived right into the ground, crunched up the front half pretty well. So this all needs to be repaired. And two legs, this one in particular, there's something going on with this one. And this back one here, it's not functioning right either. So I got to get into the internals to fix these two, and I need to replace this top part. Fixing that top part, it's going to be tedious work, but it's relatively easy. Getting to the bottom, I'm going to do something that I probably should have done when I first built the rocket. First thing I need to do is get this glue joint unglued, break through that with the knife so I can remove the shell from the core tube. Once I do that, then the mechanics will be exposed and I'll be able to fix those. But then when I reinstall it and I put it back together, instead of gluing the shell back onto the base, I'm going to anchor it with some bolts or some wood screws into some hard wood. That way, in the future, if I ever need to get into the mechanical side of things, I can just remove this shell and not have to worry about the glue. I should have done that from the get-go. Had I done that, then this would be a whole lot easier to fix. But live and learn. So we're going to attack the top portion first. I want to get this off, cleaned up, and get going on that. And then I'll, like I said, break that glue loose on the bottom. So let's get to work. Okay, so let's start kind of removing things we don't need. So for example, I can get the nose cone out of the way. Let's go ahead and remove it completely. It's in good shape. The shock cord, it's anchored to our little chute protector. That's not too bad. But I'm not wondering if maybe this is what locked up and didn't come out either. I may forego ever using these in these smaller tubes because they don't seem like they're helping too much. So with that, let's see if I can't get the shock cord off of that. Trying to figure out which way this knot goes. There we go. And it looks like it's probably going to need a new shock cord anyway. This one's gotten some charring on it. So it's been subjected to the ejection blast pretty direct. So, but that's an easy replacement. I'd rather do that than have to replace the whole rocket if it fails and crashes again. Let's see. Like I said, I'm just getting this stuff off and out of the way, so the repair will be a lot easier without stuff dragging around. What is going on here? Okay. There we go. Well, I had this looped up so many times, there was no way it was coming off. And one more, looks like, pass through. There. So that's now out of the way. The shock cord. Yeah, let me get my knife and let me very carefully cut this off because I'm gonna have to replace it anyway. But I gotta be careful and not damage the Kevlar loop because we're gonna be able to salvage that more than likely. Okay. Now if I can just cut this knot without hitting the Kevlar, we'll be okay. Okay, so that got rid of the cord. Now there's just the little nub left from the knot. And tell you what, I am going to worry about that later. So let's just, I got a lot of debris falling out now, all the charred remains of stuff. So let me just drop that out of the way. All right, I want to get this top part off. Now it already cracked on impact. I don't know if you can see that crack right there at the joint. It kind of opens and closes as I press and pull on it. So let's just see if I keep working it. Yeah, see, it just kind of broke free anyway. I twist it. Okay. Now you can see it scrunched up pretty good and took out some of the launch lug. Okay, so I'm going to work this with an the X-Acto knife and just slowly peel it off. And I won't bore you on camera with all that, but let me work on getting this top part free up and then we'll come back and start working on the base. Okay, we got the top off completely, the centering ring, and then what I did too was I ran my X-Acto blade around this joint where the tube and the ring meet because that had been glued. So I broke that glue joint by routing the knife all the way around it. So this is now free. Once I get the base off, fingers crossed, we should be able to get the whole thing to lift right up and out. And off camera too, I went ahead and I did get two sides cut free. I don't know if you can see this brace right here, or this crack on the bottom, but I was able to get my knife and kind of work my way around that base and this base here as well. I'll show you. See, so I got those two sides free. Now I want to get this side broken free, and I'm going just between the outer shell and the centering ring at the base. Just slowly kind of running around the circumference of it. Almost got this one on. There, that one's free. Okay, so we got 3 done. One more to go. And there we go. So that's the 4th and final piece on the base. Now I'm not sure what all may be still held up in there. If there's glue at this joint, which there might be, then we're going to be struggling. I don't feel too bad putting pressure on this right now because it's already scrunched up. Just trying to get this shroud free. I don't think there's anything that would bind it. There we go. Glad you got to see that firsthand. Okay, so now that it's free, let's go ahead and it's kind of getting caught on the tube. Okay. There we go. All right, that is in pretty good shape. That's excellent. So we really lucked out there. Okay, looking at the structure here. Interesting. We've got, yeah, we definitely have quite a bit of breakage on like this joint right here. That needs to be glued back together, and I'm guessing in addition to gluing it back together, I'm probably going to wrap it with some fiberglass cloth to strengthen that joint, because that is kind of a weak joint. It looks like, oh, that's unfortunate. This one broke up at the bulkhead. So that's going to be a little trickier to anchor unless I could just saturate that whole area down in there with like JB Weld or hard epoxy and just let it become one again. That might be our only option on that one. But like I said, these two are okay. No issues there. These two got some issues. So I'm going to do it off camera just because it's going to take a while. But yeah, I'm probably have to remove those hinges or the springs just to free them up so I can glue that on. And then, like I said, once it dries, I'm going to wrap some fiberglass around it just to really reinforce it. And we should be good. And this one, like I said, just glue it up back up into the, not sure if the camera angle, yeah, that post needs to go up into that ring right there. And then, like I said, I'll just fill this whole area. I'll set the rock like that and just pour epoxy in there and let it fill up. And we should be good to go. Now, what I was talking about earlier, when I rebuild this thing, I'm going to drill 4 holes around the base here. And I'm going to glue some wood, hardwood bracing on the inside of this so I can screw right into the wood. So this can come off and on. There's no reason to glue it. There really is no reason we need to glue it. The body tube looks like it got scrunched up here as well. Let me do some analyzing on this. I may want to just replace the whole tube. That may be an easier thing. Well, yeah, easier said than done, right? Yeah, let me do some, because that's not real good right there. Well, anyway, let me do some off-camera pondering and we'll get back to you. Okay, we're making progress off-camera. Just want to show you the new top shroud I was able to print up on some cardstock and roll up and place around the original centering ring that I was able to cleanly take off the top of the body there. And I took advantage of this opportunity to get some new BT60 and use it as something to wrap the shroud around so I could get the right diameter. I didn't do that initially when I first built it. I went ahead and just wrapped this up and glued it, and then it was a little too tight on the body, and I had to do some trimming and shaving, and it kind of turned into a mess. So I learned from that this time, don't glue your shroud down permanently until you have wrapped it around the right size body tube. So got that done. I'm going to end up using this new BT60 because if you remember, it's the original, got crinkled at the top obviously, but even at the base. However, the motor mount stops right about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tube right at this, where you see this kind of this line here, that's a glue joint. I'm going to cut the tube there. That's going to give me about a 1/2 inch further down to the motor. I'm going to install a BT60 coupler and then just glue some new BT60 going up to the top, like so. So that'll clean up the inner tube. The shroud is ready to go. Once I get the new tube on, then this will glue on. And it's, you know, it's kind of flimsy right now, you can see that. But once you get the tube on it, it really stiffens it up because it holds its shape at the top. And then, you know, once we get the primer and the paint and the clear and everything, it'll really stiffen up. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I will have to make my little cutout for the launch lug when the time comes to it. I do have to order a new launch lug. I was able to peel the old one off. It needed replacing anyway because it got scrunched at the top. So I was able to safely remove it. And so got one of these on order. So now, I mean, there's plenty to do while I wait for the new one to arrive. And I'm still kind of debating how I'm going to repair these dowels. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is probably drill a 1/16 inch hole down as far as I can on both sides, and then take like a 1/16 inch drill bit with the Dremel, cut it to the right length and use it as a splicer to insert 1/2 and 1/2 on each side, and that'll hold the parts together as well as hopefully preventing them from, you know, flexing. And then I'll wrap it with some fiberglass cloth and either epoxy or CA or something to really make it rigid. So yeah, that's the plan on the two broken dowels. Those two, I can take my time on getting those, and you know, if I need to come up with a different solution, but I think that's going to work. And then also I need to glue in some hardwood blocks at each of the 4 sides, and I can go ahead and get this mounted, at least get it fit to mount. Something to do while I wait for the new launch lug to arrive. But yeah, there's plenty to do, but I think we're making progress, and it's gonna come out looking just fine and better than ever because now it'll be removable. So if I ever have problems in the future, I can just unscrew it, take the shell off, and then access the mechanical workings of the gear. So yeah, I'll continue to update you as we progress through the build. Okay, just wanted to show you, I just cut the tube, and I made a coupler out of the existing tube because I didn't have any BT60, so I took a tube, cut it down a little bit slender, and I just put some wood glue in there. I'm going to set this in here now. Fit it into place. There we go. Okay. Now spread it out a little bit, let that set, and then we're going to glue the white portion on the top, and then we're going to cut it to length because I'm not sure exactly how it's going to fit on the coupler. There might be a little bit of a gap, so I want to extend it a little bit beyond the shroud so we've got some wiggle room. You don't want to come up short, so I'm going to let that sit for a second. I was able to get one of the legs off. I detached the spring, so that's going to make things a little bit easier as far as drilling out that dowel and getting a little spliced shaft in there, like a drill bit or something, some hard metal. So that kind of helps out there. So this is going to be scrap tubing there, but again, like I said, I used a little bit of the existing tubing to make up this this coupler. So yeah, that's just gonna be like that, and then this will sit right on top like so. Just like that. Okay. And for the time being, I ran the shock cord out the bottom, just so it's out of the way. Plenty of room here in Link to attach another elastic cord to it. So I'm going to let this set up a little bit, and then off camera just glue the top piece on. I may cut a little bit down on it because it is a little tall and cantankerous. But yeah, next time you see it, this will have been glued on and set. So I'll do that right now. Okay, just to give you an update on things, I have now finished with the landing gear repair. And a couple things I had to do. Let me show you. I'm not quite sure how you'll be able to see it, but I'll try to explain it best I could. One of the coupler shafts right here, this one, it actually broke the wooden dowel where it meets the bulkhead. So that was just glued with thick CA, and up and down the shaft as it was kind of bored out a little bit on the inside as well. So that's solid. It's holding well. And the other broken one was on the other side. Actually, if I can find it. It was, yeah, right next to it. This one, it snapped the dowel in half right where the coupler meets the leg. So what I did was I drilled with my 16th inch drill bit. I drilled up into the wood of the leg and then down into the coupler and bored out a 1/16 of an inch hole. Then I took a drill bit, a 16th inch drill bit, cut it to length, and I inserted it in both legs. So basically what you have in here is a 16th inch drill covering that whole span from the coupler up to just about the hole where the spring goes in. So a good 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch of steel drill bit. So that's very solid. I got all the springs reattached and fixed. So the landing gear is now complete and ready to go once again. I did finish up with the upper body tube. It extends out a little bit. I'll show you that here right now. Take the shroud off. And again, I mentioned I'm going to make this removable, so I'm not going to be gluing it. Get that to go through there. And then just line these up with the legs. Slides right on, and then I'll eventually put some wooden blocks and the 4 screws at the base here to hold it on. And then the top shroud will glue to the bottom shroud, but it will not glue to the body tube because it's going to be removable again. So like I said, there's about 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch sticking out. I'll trim that up and clean it up, glue this down to that, get this repainted, decaled up, and we are good to go at that point. So coming along nicely. I still need to get a new launch lug that's going to run up the entire length of the body, but that'll be an easy project to do. So yeah, it's coming along nicely. I'm glad to get that gear fixed. That was kind of a big headache trying to plan it out, but it worked out well. So yeah, I'm pleased with the way it came out. So we'll just move on to the next stage where we start gluing things up and painting and getting the new launch lug installed. Okay, now I know in the last segment I showed the rocket was open, the shroud was not even painted yet. A lot has gone on since the last segment. In fact, the rocket is now complete. The Mars lander is ready to fly. But what I want to do is show you all of the little intricate things I've done and explain to you how it's going to work in the future. If you remember last time, I was still waiting for my new launch lug to come in. I got that in, got it on, and now let me show you what we've got. One of the biggest things I've done is at the base. I've got 3 screws here, but there's one more screw I'm going to take out. And I want to show you, now that the rocket is complete, how you'll be able to access the mechanics of the landing gear on the inside. So if we were to take this one screw out, and what I'm using here are RC servo screws from your standard RC airplane servo. And there's one on each side of the rocket, so there's a total of four of these screws. But the cool thing about it is, with these screws now, even though the rocket is complete, the base, I'll kind of jiggle it here. the base, I'm sorry, the shell is removable. You can open it right up and access all of your mechanics. If a spring were to break or pop off the mount, or if one of the dowels cracks again, well, now it's easily repairable by sliding the shell off. And at each of the 4 points, I've glued in a hard stock piece of wood. There's a block here, 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 and here. And then I just drilled in from the shell into that, and the screws thread right in. I thought about going with machine screws with blind nuts, but I'm like, how often do you really plan on opening this up? And it just seemed like not very often. If, at least in theory, you don't want to ever have to open it, right? So I don't have to worry about too much of the threads kind of wearing out with the wood screws. The other thing is, let me take this. Well, I do have a new shock cord, but let me take the, this is off camera, I apologize, but I took the nose cone off. But if I take this all the way off, like that, you can see where I did glue in a new launch lug. And this time I tapered it actually to match the contour of the shroud. The shroud is done. It's done. It was glued on. I sanded it. I primed it best I could. Is it perfect? No. But it's I hate to say this term, but it's good enough. One thing that is interesting is I painted with the same white paint, and you can see the difference in color. Now, what I'm hoping is that when this gets out to fly, this clear coat is going to see some sunlight and maybe darken up like the rest of it, because I really don't even know why the first part darkened, unless it was due to heat and or sunlight. But it did darken. The new one didn't darken yet, so maybe once I get it out, like I said, it'll match. But for now, you can obviously see that the top portion white is a lot brighter than the lower portion. But that's just cosmetic. I did get some new decals printed up and placed on. I think they came out well. I did have to replace, in fact, let's see if I can see which one it is. Yeah, this number 7 I had to replace, as well as the letter U. And the reason for that is when I masked this off to paint it, and when I peeled the masking tape off, it actually tore some of the decal up with it. So I simply had to reprint the decals, and these are all new decals. Once I got them on, I clear coated it with my Pledge Future, whatever they call it nowadays, but the floor polish. Again, you might see that little brown line right there and some little brown dots. That's from the clear coat kind of pulling up in certain areas, and I have no rhyme or reason to explain why it darkened. It's almost like a coffee brown color, but it's what it is. This is not a shelf queen. This is to fly. In the future, I will build another one. Hopefully, it'll be prettier. But for now, like I said, I'm just pleased that I got the new shroud. Basically homemade from cardstock. The paint pretty hardened it up. Oh, the other thing that reminds me, when I slid this on the new tube, I did have to cut off maybe 1/8 of an inch off the tube. But now it completely matches the top. So where the nose cone fits in here perfectly, it sits right at the top of the base of the shroud there. So to put it back together, pretty straightforward. You just have to drop your shock cord through, looking down from below, getting the tube into the shroud. In fact, I probably could have run the shroud out the bottom to make things a little easier. But, let's see. You want to line up your launch lug as well. There we go. Okay, now that it's pretty much through, then you just have to, again, line up the base. Make sure your legs are in line with their grooves. All 4 legs should line up. Once they are, slowly slide it down over the legs. You'll see them go over the mounting blocks until they're flush at the bottom. There you go. And then you just take your 4 wood screws, screw them in, and the base is complete. it's all done. So now it's ready to head out to the field and fly. I apologize I didn't show all the steps. I just ended up doing a lot off camera. But now that it is done, I can show you the updates and the progress we've made, and now it's ready to fly. So like I said, next time we go out and have a launch day, when the wind dies down and it's maybe a little bit warmer, we'll get some flying in. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the rebuild. Again, these are things that on the rebuild I'd like to implement on my future builds from the get-go. Like I said, I think mounting these to wooden blocks from the onset will really help and save you a lot of struggle and time down the road if you ever have to get in there to make any repairs. So food for thought. Hindsight's always 20/20, but I'm pretty pleased with it, the way it came out. Hope you have fun building yours, and if you have to rebuild it, you know, these might be possible ideas you may want to implement. So with that, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thanks again for watching. See you all at the launch pad. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.